Not all manipulation screams for attention. Some of it whispers while slowly bring down your peace. She might seem charming, vulnerable, even kind, but behind the mask lies control, chaos, and emotional warfare. If you've ever felt drained, confused, or like you're always the villain, this video may reveal the truth you've been avoiding. Welcome to Stoic Bridge, the bridge between ancient wisdom and modern life, guiding you through life's storms with calm and resilience. In today's video, we explore 7 evident signs that an evil woman may be manipulating you, not through brute force, but through subtle psychological tactics that erode your clarity, boundaries, and even your identity. From chronic victimhood and emotional chaos to guilt-tripping, superficial obsession, and the refusal to ever admit fault. These signs aren't just red flags, they're warnings. Warnings that your time, your peace, and your sense of self may be under siege. This isn't about labeling people as good or bad. It's about awareness. It's about recognizing patterns that slowly chip away at who you are. And more importantly, it's about protecting the life you're building as a Stoic man. Because the company you keep doesn't just shape your days, it shapes your destiny. Through each of these 7 signs, you'll not only learn how to identify emotional manipulation, but how to respond with the calm, firm strength that Stoic philosophy teaches. You'll uncover tools to set boundaries, reclaim your agency, and walk away from dysfunction. Not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. So if you've ever questioned whether you're overthinking things or wondered why your peace keeps slipping away, stay with us. This video might just hold the mirror you've been missing. 1, she's always the victim. Imagine sitting across from someone who, with every story, draws you into a whirlwind of heartbreak, betrayal, and unfair treatment, yet somehow they are never the cause, only the casualty. At first, it feels like empathy, but soon it becomes entrapment. One of the clearest, yet often overlooked signs of a toxic woman is this. She always casts herself as the victim. Always. No matter the context, whether it's a rude cashier at the store, a fallout with a lifelong friend, or a messy trail of failed relationships, the script never changes. In her version, she is always the one wronged, misunderstood, or wounded. At first, she might seem brave for opening up. You sit there, nodding with concern, as she shares stories that tug at your heart. She's articulate, passionate, painting her life in strokes of misfortune, surrounded by villains. You may even think, maybe she just needs someone who finally treats her right. That's the trap, that's the hook. But with time, a pattern starts to emerge. This isn't someone healing from past pain. This is someone using pain as power. Behind the emotional stories lies a deeper strategy, control through sympathy. I remember a man named Tom. He was kind, grounded, the type of person who listens before he speaks. After his divorce, Tom met a woman who seemed refreshingly open. She confided in him everything. How her ex-husband betrayed her, how her male boss held her back out of insecurity, how her family never truly supported her. Tom admired her vulnerability. He thought she was strong for surviving so much. But months passed, and the pattern never changed. The stories kept coming, and each one followed a familiar arc. Everyone else was toxic. Every job ended unjustly. Every friendship ended in backstabbing. Slowly, Tom found himself caught in a role he never agreed to. He was either the savior, constantly propping her up with reassurance, or the enemy when he dared to challenge her version of events. Every disagreement became a personal attack, every suggestion a betrayal. This is where the danger truly lies. A woman who clings to the identity of a victim cannot see herself clearly. She rewrites every moment to fit the narrative that she is never at fault. And if you're close to her, eventually you become part of the script. You become her next disappointment. The next chapter in her never-ending saga of suffering. It's a cycle that drains you emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. Stoic philosophy teaches us a powerful truth. We cannot control the actions of others. We can only govern ourselves. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." But for someone addicted to victimhood, that power is deliberately abandoned. They surrender to their circumstances and expect you to carry the emotional burden they refuse to release. So what should you do? You see it clearly for what it is. You stop playing the hero in a story that never ends. You resist the urge to rescue what refuses to be healed. You offer empathy, but with boundaries. You stay grounded in reason, not entangled in emotional manipulation. And if the stories don't evolve, if they only circle back to blame and chaos, you step back. Quietly, calmly, with strength. Because walking away from recurring dysfunction isn't cruelty, clarity, and clarity is the first step to peace. Now let's move to the second sign, one that often hides behind charm and flattery but reveals itself when you start paying close attention. 2. She's addicted to drama. Some people fear silence, like it's a void they must fill. And with certain women, that silence doesn't last long, because when peace becomes too still, drama becomes the soundtrack of their lives. The second unmistakable sign of a destructive pattern is this. She's addicted to drama, not the occasional emotional day we all go through. That's part of being human. This is something deeper, more constant, more consuming. Her life is like a stage play that never ends, where she is the writer, the star, and the director, rewriting scenes as fast as emotions shift. And if things get too calm, too predictable, she'll strike a match and set the whole scene on fire, just to feel something. To her, peace is suffocating. Stillness feels like punishment. She's drawn to intensity the way moths are drawn to flame, not for warmth, but for the spectacle. And without warning, you'll find yourself trapped in an emotional roller coaster that never slows down. At first, it seems harmless. A little tension here, a sharp comment there. Maybe one night she gets upset because your attention drifted while she was telling a story. Or you replied to her text a little later than usual. And suddenly, that's proof you're distant, disinterested, or even disloyal. What began as a quiet evening becomes a full-blown argument, fueled by assumptions, projections, and accusations you never saw coming. You scramble to explain. You apologize for things you didn't mean or don't even understand. And by the end of it, while you're drained, she appears strangely satisfied. That's the thing about people who thrive on drama. It makes them feel alive. It keeps them at the center of every situation. The chaos feeds them. The emotional storms give them energy. And everyone else? Left running in circles, trying to decode the latest upheaval. From the lens of Stoic philosophy, this behavior is not a mystery. Seneca wisely said, "An angry man opens his mouth and shuts his eyes." And that applies perfectly here. A woman addicted to drama isn't looking for truth. She's looking for fuel. She's not seeking understanding. She's seeking attention. Her actions are impulsive, not reflective. Her words designed to stir, not settle. And if you happen to be nearby when her emotional fuse shortens, you'll be pulled into her fire again and again. The most dangerous part, you start thinking you're helping. You believe that your calm presence, your patient explanations, your empathy will fix it. But all you're really doing is playing a role in her performance. Over time, your peace erodes. Your clarity blurs. You become reactive, nervous, always guessing what could spark the next eruption. You lose the stillness that once defined you, and with it, your inner strength. But you don't have to lose yourself in someone else's storm. So what's the Stoic answer? Distance. Not necessarily physical, at least not right away. Start with emotional space. Step back, Let the waves rise and fall without rushing in to rescue or reason. Observe, but don't absorb. Be present, but not involved. Epictetus taught us we cannot control others, we can only control how we respond. And sometimes the most powerful response is none at all. Silence, stillness, space. You are not required to be anyone's emotional outlet. You are not here to be cast in someone else's chaos. Your role as a Stoic man is to remain rooted, unmoved, free. Next, let's talk about a third sign, one that's easy to overlook because it hides behind charm, but reveals a much deeper truth about someone's character. 3. She controls through guilt. Guilt can be a shadow that follows you everywhere in social, and if you're not careful, it can quietly become the chain that binds your freedom. Most people don't realize this, but guilt is one of the most powerful tools of emotional manipulation. Scientific studies reveal that guilt activates the same areas of the brain as physical pain. That tight feeling in your chest, the pressure in your stomach, that deep nagging sense that something's off. Even when you've done nothing wrong, it's not your imagination, it's real. And some women, the wrong women, know exactly how to use it. The third sign of a destructive woman is this: she doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't demand with words. She controls through guilt. Subtle, deliberate, and deeply effective. At first, it's easy to miss. You might just think she's emotionally attuned or sensitive. Maybe she gets upset when you cancel dinner to finish a work project. Maybe she withdraws a little when you say you need a weekend to recharge. You interpret it as vulnerability, and because you care, you respond. You reassure her, you shift your priorities, you cancel your plans, and slowly, piece by piece, you start giving parts of yourself away. Not out of love, but out of fear of disappointing her. It's not what she says, it's what she doesn't say. The sigh, the silence, the look that says, "I thought you cared more than that." You begin to question yourself. Was I being selfish? Should I have tried harder? Each time you compromise, not because it feels right, but because guilt whispers that it's the only way to be good enough. And here's where it becomes dangerous. Before you even realize it, you're not living by your own values anymore. You're not making clear, reasoned decisions. You're reacting. You're trying to preempt that emotional backlash. You're moving through your life on eggshells, second-guessing every step in an attempt to avoid making her feel neglected. And that's how she stays in control. Guilt becomes her silent language, spoken through sighs, glances, and subtle withdrawal. And the more you give, the more she expects, not through direct confrontation, but through emotional pressure. She doesn't have to make demands because you've already internalized her expectations. You'll notice the shift when you start explaining yourself all the time. Justifying perfectly reasonable choices, feeling like the villain in her narrative for simply choosing yourself. Little by little, your identity fades, your clarity dissolves, you begin playing a part. She is written for you until the role becomes more familiar than your true self. But Stoic philosophy offers a different script. Epictetus reminds us, no man is free who is not master of himself. And here lies the truth. If guilt is driving your decisions, then freedom has quietly exited the room. You've surrendered your inner compass, and the longer you stay in that cycle, the more lost you'll feel. The solution isn't to argue, it isn't to fight, it's to reclaim your agency through boundaries. Clear, calm, firm. You give what aligns with your principles, not what avoids her disappointment. You act from conviction, not fear. You stay grounded in your own truth, not swept up by the tides of her emotions. And when the guilt returns, when she tries to tighten those old strings, you breathe, you pause, and you don't flinch. Because a man who knows his values and lives by them is unshakable. And that kind of man, he cannot be controlled. Now let's move to the fourth sign, A warning that reveals itself not in what she gives, but in what she expects and takes. 4. She lacks empathy. There's a certain kind of silence that speaks volumes, not the peaceful kind, but the hollow one that lingers when someone just doesn't care. And often this silence surfaces when life gets hard. The 4th sign of a harmful relationship shows itself in life's most vulnerable moments. She lacks empathy. And if you've walked this earth long enough, you know, sooner or later, life will take a turn. You'll lose someone you love. Your health might falter. A dream you've worked years to build could unravel in a single phone call. In those moments, you don't need grand gestures. You don't need perfect words. You just need someone beside you, someone whose presence whispers, "You're not alone." But a woman who lacks empathy, she won't offer that presence. Or if she does, it's mechanical, done out of duty, not heart. You'll sense it in the way she checks her phone while you speak, or how quickly she redirects the conversation back to herself when you're opening up. You might say, "It's been a rough week," and she'll look up briefly, then jump into a story about her coworker's drama at lunch. Or you finally gather the courage to share something painful, only to hear a flat "that sucks," followed by "anyway." That subtle dismissal, it cuts deeper than it seems. It tells you not just that she doesn't understand, but that she doesn't want to. A friend of mine, one of the most grounded men I've known, once shared a story that stayed with me. He had lost his wife to illness, and after some time, he began seeing someone new. At first, she appeared caring, asked questions, seemed patient. But when the deeper layers of his grief began to emerge, when he needed someone to simply sit beside him in silence, her discomfort grew. She fidgeted, changed the subject, offered shallow reassurances like, "Everything happens for a reason." Then quickly turned the conversation stress to her own stress about her hair appointment or weekend plans. That's when he realized the painful truth. He felt more alone sitting next to her than he ever did sitting by himself. Empathy isn't about fixing. It's not about delivering the perfect response. It's about presence, genuine, steady, and unspoken. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." But here's something worth adding. Don't waste time wishing someone would become who they're not. Empathy is not a skill you can teach someone through logic. It's not something you can pull out of them with enough patience. It's either there or it's not. And when it's missing, your soul will feel the absence more than your ears ever could. You'll try to explain her coldness to yourself. You'll say she's just tired, stressed, distracted. But if she consistently turns away when you're hurting, listen to that deeper truth. She cannot meet you in your pain. Stoicism calls us to see things clearly, not through the lens of hope, but through the reality of what is. And here's what is. If she lacks compassion when the road gets rough, she won't weather the storms with you. She'll leave you stranded emotionally, even if not physically. The answer isn't to plead for more. It's to protect your peace. Walk away. Not with resentment, but with clarity. Because life is too short to share it with someone who hears your words, but never truly listens with her heart. And now let's explore the 5th sign, a pattern that reveals itself in what she gives, or more accurately, what she doesn't. 5. She's obsessed with superficial things. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that only reflects what's on the surface, never what lies beneath. That's what it feels like to be with someone who sees the world through the lens of appearance alone. The 5th warning sign is subtle at first, but over time, it becomes exhausting. She's obsessed with superficial things. And I don't mean a lighthearted interest in fashion or aesthetics. Many people enjoy those things in a balanced way. This is something deeper. This is a woman who builds her identity around status, image, and constant comparison. To her, worth is measured in square footage, designer labels, social media likes, and how many people are watching, not in character, kindness, or wisdom. The house must impress, the shoes must sparkle, the attention must never fade. You might brush it off in the beginning. What's the harm in liking nice things, you ask? But soon you'll notice it's not about the things themselves, it's about what they represent. Validation, status, control. She doesn't seek beauty for beauty's sake, she seeks superiority. She craves the illusion of being envied, admired, envied again, never truly fulfilled. And here's where it gets personal. You become a part of that performance, not for who you are, but for what you bring. Your value is tied to your income, your car, your connections. You feel like you're always trying to prove something. And even when you give more, do more, or achieve more, it never seems to be enough because someone else always has more. And she's always looking over your shoulder at the next man in line. Suddenly, you're not living, you're competing, not just with the world, but with her expectations, shifting, unspoken, and impossible to satisfy. The Stoics warned us against this kind of emptiness. Over 2,000 years ago, Epictetus wrote, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." But a woman obsessed with appearances is constantly wanting. She may smile when she gets what she wants, but it fades quickly, replaced by the urge for something new. The momentary high gives way to an aching dissatisfaction. It's like trying to fill a cracked jar. No matter how much you pour in, it leaks out faster than you can replenish it. She's caught in the pursuit of externals. And if you walk beside her long enough, you'll start chasing them too until you no longer recognize the man in the mirror. Stoic philosophy calls these things indifference. Marcus Aurelius wrote that externals, wealth, fame, praise, neither add nor subtract from who you truly are. What matters is virtue, character, the strength of your inner world. But here's the heartbreaking truth. A woman trapped in superficial thinking will never see your depth. She won't notice your loyalty, your quiet strength, or your values because she's too busy scanning for surface shine. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." And the woman who constantly seeks more, attention, luxury, status, may be rich in possessions, but she's impoverished in peace. And peace, my friend, is what the Stoic man guards most fiercely. If you find yourself giving your energy to someone who values image over essence, who chases likes instead of living with purpose, understand you will lose yourself if you try to keep up. You'll lose your clarity, your dignity, and most dangerously, your peace. The solution? It's not loud, it's not vengeful, it's a quiet, deliberate step away, not out of anger, but out of wisdom, because the man who knows the value of stillness knows when to leave a shallow world behind. Next, let's turn to the sixth and final sign, one that reveals the quiet threat beneath the surface, control disguised as love. 6. She can't admit she's wrong. Sometimes the storm doesn't come from shouting or slamming doors. It comes quietly, in those subtle, seemingly small moments when reason is met with resistance. That's when you realize something deeper. She simply cannot admit she's wrong. You bring up a concern, gently, logically. You lay out the facts with patience. You explain your side calmly, hoping for understanding. Maybe you even show proof so clear that anyone else would say, "You're right," but not her. She doesn't listen to understand. She listens to defend. And if the facts corner her, she doesn't concede. She shifts the entire ground beneath your feet. Suddenly, the conversation isn't about what happened. It's about how you made her feel. It's about your tone, your attitude, or how you always do this. The original disagreement disappears, buried beneath an avalanche of emotional misdirection. You're no longer discussing the issue. You're defending your character, and somehow you've become the problem. At first, you may think maybe she's just having a rough day, but the pattern repeats again and again. She cannot take responsibility, not for a small mistake, not for a sharp word, not even for a misunderstanding. She will defend a poor decision to the bitter end. Not because she's evil, but because to her, being wrong equals being weak. And weakness is something her pride simply cannot allow. But the problem runs deeper than stubbornness. Psychologically, this behavior often stems from a fragile ego, where admitting fault feels like a personal threat, not an opportunity to grow. So she builds walls, she rewrites reality, and she pushes away anyone who challenges her version of the truth. But here's what gets sacrificed in that process: growth, connection, and trust. Because a person who refuses to admit when they're wrong also refuses to learn. And without learning, there is no growth, only repetition. Repetition of blame, repetition of conflict, repetition of emotional isolation. The Stoics knew this long ago. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake, or looking at things from the wrong perspective, I'll gladly change. It's the truth I'm after." That's not just wisdom, that's strength. The strength to put truth above ego. The strength to admit when you've stumbled and use it to rise higher. But when you're with someone who rejects that mindset, you'll notice how every disagreement drains you, because you're always the one carrying the burden of logic, patience, and emotional maturity. And after a while, it's not just exhausting, it's lonely. A relationship like that slowly shifts. It becomes less about love and more about control, less about connection and more about competition. And when you're always keeping score, nobody truly wins. Ironically, in her refusal to admit fault, she ends up losing the very thing that Stoicism holds sacred, the pursuit of truth. If the words "I was wrong" never leave her lips, she's not just protecting her pride, she's closing herself off from understanding, from emotional intimacy, and ultimately, from love itself. And this is where a Stoic man must find clarity. You don't need a perfect partner. You need someone who's willing to be imperfect and honest enough to admit it. Someone who values truth over pride. Someone who understands that humility isn't a weakness, it's the foundation of wisdom. Seneca wrote, "Only time can heal what reason cannot. But if reason is never welcomed, time only deepens the wounds." So if you find yourself with someone who refuses to acknowledge fault, who turns every challenge into a courtroom, who cannot say the words, "You're right," or "I was wrong," then it's time to choose differently. Not out of anger, not out of spite, but out of respect for your mind, your peace, and the life of clarity and strength you're building. Because at the end of the day, a Stoic man doesn't need to be right all the time. He just needs to walk beside someone who can grow alongside him. 7, she disrespects your time. There's a quiet kind of theft that doesn't show up in your bank account or on your doorstep. It shows up in your calendar, in your patience, in the moments you never get back. Because if life has taught us anything by this point, it's this: time is the one currency we never recover. You can earn back money, you can rebuild health, but time, once it slips through your fingers, it's gone. Which is why a woman who repeatedly disrespects your time isn't just inconsiderate, she's a threat to your peace, your progress, and your purpose. And the most dangerous part, she won't take it all at once. She'll take it in quiet, unnoticeable fragments, minutes here, hours there, until one day you realize you've lost years. I remember a man named Richard, mid-50s, successful contractor out of Houston, disciplined, respected, self-made. He built everything in his life from the ground up, except perhaps boundaries in love. Richard began dating a woman named Elise. She was magnetic, elegant, affectionate in all the right ways. At first, it felt like something real, but underneath the charm was a pattern, one that slowly unraveled his time, one missed moment at a time. It started with being late. First by 10 minutes, then 20, then 40. Then came the last-minute cancellations, the vague excuses, the "sorry babe, I forgot." And yet, Richard let it go. Because he was kind. Because he was patient. Because he believed understanding was love. He rearranged meetings, delayed projects, skipped fishing trips with old friends, just to accommodate her shifting moods. He waited at restaurants alone, watched the minutes tick by, justifying her absence with soft assumptions. But I'll never forget the look in his eyes the day he told me, "Man, I feel like I'm always waiting." That's the emotional weight of someone who doesn't value your time. It's not just about lateness. It's about leaving you suspended, physically, mentally, emotionally, in a constant state of anticipation. And if you're not careful, you start to adjust to it. You begin to lower your expectations. You convince yourself this is just how things are. That being understanding means tolerating the disrespect. But a Stoic man sees more clearly. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And that's what Richard came to understand. Elise wasn't truly busy. She wasn't overwhelmed. She simply didn't value his time, because deep down, she didn't value him. And perhaps even more importantly, he had stopped valuing his time himself. The solution isn't to confront or demand. It's not ultimatums or arguments. It's clarity. It's choosing to protect your time as you would protect your soul, because they are one and the same. A woman who truly respects you will respect your minutes. She'll arrive when she says she will. She'll treat your time not as an afterthought, but as something sacred. Epictetus once asked, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself?" Richard eventually stopped waiting, and so should you, because time wasted is life wasted. So spend yours where it's honored, appreciated, and returned. Now, as we come to the end of this journey, let's reflect on what all of this really means and what it takes to protect your peace, your power, and your path as a Stoic man. After exploring the 7 signs, from victimhood and emotional chaos to manipulation, material obsession, and the refusal to take responsibility, one truth stands out. Recognizing toxic patterns isn't about judging others. It's about honoring yourself. It's about protecting your time, your peace, and your potential as a Stoic man. Because the company you keep will either elevate you or drain you. And learning to tell the difference, that's a form of wisdom all its own. If you've made it this far, thank you, truly. This wasn't just another video, it was a deeper journey, one about growth, awareness, and rediscovering the kind of man you're capable of becoming. The kind of man who doesn't just live, but lives with clarity, intention, and inner strength. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your story, your reflections, even the quiet battles you faced along the way. This space isn't just about content, it's about connection. So if this video resonated with you in any way, drop a comment below. If you're not sure what to say, just write, "I love this." That alone lets me know you're walking this path with us. Your presence, your engagement, it helps this community grow. A community built not on noise, but on Stoic wisdom. Not on trends, but on timeless truths. One built by men who choose strength, self-mastery, and the quiet courage to live with integrity. So before you go, don't forget to hit subscribe. Tap the notification bell and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Every like, every comment, every share helps us grow this bridge between ancient wisdom and modern life. And if you're ready to keep walking that path, I've left 2 more videos right here for you, so you can continue learning, reflecting, and becoming just a little stronger every single day. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.